you say that you two haven't discussed the vice presidency directly, but you said you'd certainly be open to it if he did offer it to you. Considering that, does it give you any pause whatsoever about taking that job when you see how he treated his last vice president?
Caitlin, I'm extremely skeptical that Mike Pence's life was ever in danger. I think politics people like to really exaggerate things from time to time.
Yeah, they just exaggerate. You know, it's just all the time in American politics, we have a horde of supporters for the president chanting that they want to off the vice president. Like, don't exaggerate and pretend, Caitlin Collins, that that's a scary thing. But what I love about that is he is literally trying to be the next VP. He also, according to reports, is in the final four to be the VP. And as part of that audition process, he has to apologize for the aborted effort to off the previous guy who held that position. It's insane. It was true. Cassidy Hutchinson, by the way, confirmed that Trump actively expressed support for the hang Mike Pence chant. It wasn't just that it happened. Trump saw it happening and liked that it happened to the last VP. And now JD Vance wants to be the next VP. Well, he might get what he wants, although he might grow to regret it. Trump apparently has just a handful of remaining potential running mates. And there's something in common across all four of these. See if you can figure out what it is. Ohio Senator JD Vance is there. North Dakota Governor Doug Burgum, Florida Senator Marco Rubio, and South Carolina Senator Tim Scott, apparently. And according to reports, we probably have a little bit of time before we find out. He said previously that he would probably announce his decision closer to the RNC, the convention that'll happen in mid-July. That's around when, back in 2016, he picked Mike Pence. So I think that makes sense. Now they're pushing back against these reports, saying anyone claiming to know who or when President Trump will choose a VP is lying unless the person is named Donald J. Trump. I would add to that, no, if the person talking is Donald J. Trump, they're almost certainly lying, by the way. But I buy this list, Brad. I'm surprised by the list because I really just did imagine he has to choose a Republican woman, right? Like, there's multiple that he could choose. Like, he was talking about Lee Stefanik. I mean, Kristi Noem at one point was on the list. That apparently isn't gonna happen now after the story about her killing her dog. But there were others, Carrie Lake, Marjorie Greene, Lauren Boebert, or whatever. But instead, he's got, like, you're gonna put Doug Burgum? Do you need donations that bad? Hey, I'm glad you're here. Listen, in order for the Damage Report to keep on going, we need viewers like you to become a member on YouTube. Can you click the join button on YouTube today? Thank you. Well, what do you think about this list?
I'll get to the list in a second, but first, the idea that Republicans are saying that there was no danger to Mike Pence on a day when people are chanting, hang Mike Pence, when months later, Michael Schur goes to Trump rallies and says, yes, they should kill Mike Pence for treason. That is the fear mongering they don't want to engage in. That they don't want to tell you about realities of people's lives being in danger. But at the meantime, they're telling you that there's 15 million Mexicans and Guatemalans that are coming here with giant machetes to cut your kid's head off.
Yep.
They want you to be so scared of things that are not scary, but not scared about the end of the country as we know it, while a horde of psychopaths tries to affix the vice president's head on a spike. That's insanity. And even more, well, it's not insane for JD Vance to want to be the vice president because he knows all he has to do, which is be totally fine with the end of America as we know it.
100%.
This is the one thing that they have spent so much time trying to not sound like they're spending so much time on it because they don't want people to think that talking about January 6th is worth their time. When take it from me, like I know what sponsors are afraid of, and that is the giant arbiter of what is and is not acceptable by America. Really, what sponsors are afraid of. And the one thing when we were out pitching shows for things about politics, they were like, listen, we just like to talk about how in America, there is a peaceful transfer of power. That is the one thing that everybody was asking about. Like the miracle of America as it's so chaotic. This is before January 6th. As it's so chaotic, we were pitching shows and all of them were like, it's a little too scary about America.
Yeah.
Can we do it like a documentary about how there's always been a peaceful transfer of power? I heard that multiple times from multiple production companies with multiple shows you have seen on the air.
Yeah.
That is the thing. And that was in peril itself. And these guys are like, oh, not a big deal. Now, the list, I love that Kristi Noem was sitting there penning her autobiography and being like, you know what Trump's gonna love? Me holding a gun to a dog's head and pulling the trigger.
Make me VP or I'm pulling this trigger. I will kill this bunny.
And hilariously, the shooting stunt backfired.
100%, because she's the crazy one, as we will get to.
Yeah.
But yeah, you are right. I might be too quick to say that there's no qualifications for being VP under Donald Trump. It is not true. There's some qualifications, and you laid it out. It's being okay with the end of America. Not that Trump necessarily will end America, but that if he does, just go along with it. Or anything else that happens. Whatever happens, you're cool with it. And JD Vance is cool with whatever happens, as long as he gets to be on camera and he's got a tie and he gets paid. Anything goes, literally anything. Like, do you think if we get to President Trump, Vice President JD Vance, they've got like the New York Times editorial board against a cinder block wall, and they're like cocking their guns. JD Vance will be like, we've gone too far. Who thinks that? Who thinks that at this point? Like every person who wants to serve under him has self-selected as a person that there is no line they will not follow him across. That is the qualification. That is who JD Vance is. And out of the people on that list, super fast, I would choose Tim Scott. I think Tim Scott, when you dig into it, not a great guy, believes a lot of crazy things. He comes across as the most likable, I think, the most human. Tim Scott seems like an actual person. Those other three don't. One is a literal billionaire, one of the most boring people I've ever seen in my life. JD Vance is an insane person, and Marco Rubio is a shell of himself. And I don't, maybe he was good back in the day or whatever, but I would choose Tim Scott really fast. Who would you choose if it came down to those four? And not for our purposes, but for Trump's purposes.
I mean, I would say it wouldn't be, he would pick the, I love when people's calculus is, well, it would be great. There were people who said like Donald Trump and Ron DeSantis, that's what it's gonna be. No. The only reason that Trump would explicitly choose a woman is his sexism, because the idea is your vice president needs to be the most limpy peepeed loser that no one would ever want to replace you, that would never threaten you in the public eye. And so Donald Trump, who thinks of women as arm candy, would say the only thing that's better for that scenario, that than for that logic, than a limp PP is someone with no PP. That is how warped his sense is. Yeah. But I think it would be Tim Scott. I think Tim Scott's going to be the person that he goes with because he loves that, like, he where's my African American? It's that kind of, I'm boiling down on his logic, and also you can't have a limper PP than limp Scott.
Well, okay, moving aside from crotch related concerns, also I think like a lot of religious conservatives like Trump, I think having Tim Scott makes that more palatable from a religious standpoint, potentially. So that's what I'd go for. And Doug Burgum is gonna give him the money anyway. Doug Burgum desperately wants to be president because he's gonna give Doug Burgum $100 billion in tax cuts or whatever ridiculous amount. So he doesn't need him. Members make a difference here at TYT. You help make the show happen, and we see you in the chat with your loyalty badge. Click the join button to become a member today.